We're second week of Advent, and hoping, as I had mentioned last week, I guess, to not merely remember during Advent that, Jesus came and his coming was anticipated, and we anticipate his second coming now, but trying to focus and remember why he came. What was the reason for Jesus coming in the first place? And so this week I want us to look at the idea that we read in one verse in the Gospel of John, John chapter 10, verse 10, that Jesus came to give abundant life. It is part of what he came to do. I apologize, the bulletin insert, that's on me. You have bulletins, that wasn't on me. I will try to have inserts in them for the next service, and I'll have the discussion questions. They'll be available online for folks who like to use those during the week or at your small groups. So if you're like, my bulletin doesn't have one, it's just yours. Everyone else has one. It's just you. Just don't make a big deal about it. So before we look at this one verse, I very seldom preach on just one verse, right? And I think context is important. So what's going on in the Gospel of John as we come up to this chapter 10, verse 10. At risk of oversimplifying, I'm going to do a bit of a summary, okay? So in John chapter 9, there was a really cool event that occurred. There was a man who had been born blind his whole life, and he was begging. And basically, Jesus came across this guy on the Sabbath, and he healed him. But he intentionally healed him in a way that involved doing work, right? Jesus basically said, okay, put this mud on your eyes, or Jesus put mud on his eyes and said, go to this pool and rinse, and then you should see. And this man in faith said, sure, I'll do that, right? That was not a normal optometrist prescription back in the day. This is not like, so all I need is mud. This is Jesus making a point. So the man was healed, right? This is a big deal. Everyone was happy. They weren't, actually. The religious leaders, the Pharisees, they were upset. This man was brought to them, and they're like, who did this? Who healed you? It's like, that guy, Jesus. Where is he? I don't know. I'm kind of new with the eyes. This is, I don't know where he went. And they were upset, and they kept repeating, it's like, we know this man's a sinner. He can't be from God because he was breaking the Sabbath, right? And guys, I still can't get over the color of your eyes. This is just fantastic. Everything is so bright, and they're like, pay attention. This guy is clearly a bad guy. Where is he? He's like, I don't know, right? They get his parents involved. They're like, we don't think you were really healed. They get his parents. Is this your son? Yeah, he's a grown-up at this point, right? And they're like, was he born blind? They're like, he was born blind. Apparently now he can see. We don't know what happened. He's of age. Ask him. They totally didn't want, right? Because the Pharisees are heated, and they can make their life very difficult. So they're like, it's on him. And dude's like, this is hilarious. You guys are all, you don't even know who it was. But I know this. I was blind. Now I can see. And they're insulting him. They're like, you were born in utter sin. How would you preach to us? And they cast him out. And then Jesus heard about it, came up to him, introduced himself. And I'll jump in here at the end of chapter 9. It says, Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And having found him, Jesus said, do you believe in the Son of Man? He answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. And Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, you're talking about, are we also blind? And Jesus said to them, oh, no, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, we can see, your guilt remains. And then we move into chapter 10. So Jesus is making a point here. He's healed this man. And he's poked at the Pharisees. They're hung up on the letter of the law, and they are blind to the fact that the Son of Man, the promised Messiah, is right in their midst, doing exactly what the prophets foretold. The blind will see, clearly miraculous, and they're like, but you did it on the wrong day. And he's saying you're blind, and they're fighting him on it, and there's other people around, so he turns it into a teaching moment, and he starts to use this illustration about sheep. He says, truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold, where they keep the sheep, who doesn't enter by the door, but climbs in another way, that person is a thief and a robber. But the one who enters by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the gatekeeper opens. The sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. A stranger they will not follow, but they will flee from him, for they don't know the voice of strangers. This figure of speech Jesus used with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. I love it when they put that in, because I'm like, hold on, I was with you with the blind and seeing thing, and now how did we get to sheep? Other people were like, help us out here, which is great. So Jesus again said to them, verse 7, truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not listen to them. I'm the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and he will go in and out and find pasture. Come back to that phrase in a minute. Then in verse 10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. So we move from healing a guy, talking about blindness, figuratively and literally, and then he's talking about sheep. So I think we need to unpack that a little bit, because if it was confusing for his original hearers, who most of them, like there were probably sheep there, right? They were around. People had these. Now it's a little bit rare to have sheep. I know some of you do, and there's people that have them. But day in, day out, right? So what's going on? His illustration here, when he talks about sheep, he's not talking about actual animals. He didn't come to save the sheep. He's not with PETA or anything like that. The sheep in this illustration are God's people. This is a time-honored illustration that God's word has used. The prophets have used it. It's been this picture, right? And I think the main thing that we can take, and I've said this a few times because it's been a change in my thinking. Often pastors, preachers will say, the Bible calls us sheep because sheep are dumb. Sheep, I'm told, are kind of dumb. And so are people. So I see how we could get on that. But I think the clearer picture, God calls us sheep because sheep are valuable and vulnerable. That's what sheep were. They still are. Sheep are valuable and vulnerable. So they are worth taking care of, but you need to take care of them. And because they're valuable, they're not just apt to wander off and get lost, but people might come and steal them. So they require protection. Way back, there's lots of spots that we can look. But in Numbers chapter 27, verses 16 to 17, we've got Moses praying to, Abraham. Sorry, I'm like, wait, that light on the dash saying I got the wrong guy. No, it is Moses. Sorry, I should turn there. It is Moses, and he's praying to the Lord, right? It's getting near the end of his life, and the people have been led right to the edge of the promised land, and he prays, he says, let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the congregation who shall go out before them and come in before them, who shall lead them out and bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord may not be as sheep that have no shepherd. That same kind of terminology that gets translated, right? Lead them out and bring them in. And it's this picture of constant abiding, day-by-day care, right? Not, let the shepherd show up once a year to shear the sheep and then head back to town and leave them. It's like, no, leading them out bringing them back in. It sort of implies all of the things in a sheep's life, in a person's life, be with them and protect them. And you see that Jesus echoed those words, right? He said that I've come and the sheep don't listen to them, they'll be saved. He says, if anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and he will go in, and he will go out, and he will find pasture. He's alluding to this promise that God's people have always leaned on, that God would shepherd his people. And so God's people are sheep. Jesus identifies himself as the good shepherd. He also identifies himself as the gate of the sheepfold. For readers nowadays, we're like, he's muddying his analogy. He needs to choose what character in this he is. Is he the door, or is he the shepherd? Who is this gatekeeper? What's going on? He's got too many characters. In his context, this was not confusing. He is establishing the idea that the sheep are valuable and vulnerable. They are God's people. And there are those who have authority. They have a right to protect them, and God is offering protection to them through the way he chooses. So a sheepfold, I'm told, is basically like an enclosed area where the sheep could be protected, usually at night. It wasn't just like, hey, hang out on the hills, you'll probably be fine. I hear coyotes, but they'll only take a few of you. That'll be okay, right? It's like, no, we're going to gather them up. And so if you want to keep them safe, fewer doors, fewer ways in. There's a gate to get in. Mostly this is to keep the sheep from wandering off, to keep jackals from getting in. It was not, I'm told, kind of like 9-foot fence with razor wire. It wasn't completely people-proof, but it did a pretty good job for keeping the sheep in, keeping the critters out. People could climb over the wall. So everyone has this picture in their head. And Jesus is saying that he is the door, and he is the good shepherd. We're going to circle back to, because the main point that we want to talk about here is who Jesus is. Why did he come? What do we see from this? But who are the thieves he talks about? This is important, right? This is the other character that he's contrasting himself with. He says, all who came before me are thieves and robbers. This very likely, when he words it like that, he doesn't mean like every other human that has existed before I arrived falls into this category. That's not what he's saying. Very likely this is alluding to the many false messiahs who had claimed to offer deliverance, usually through armed rebellion, and had led the people astray. Historians tell us that in the first century and leading up to it, this was increasing. There was like a heightened messianic expectation amongst the Jewish people as they are under Roman rule. They're like, surely God sees. Anytime now he's going to raise someone up. Everyone's looking for this. So someone goes, I'm the guy. I'm the one that God sent. Follow me. People would do it. Jesus says they were all false. They didn't. Everyone who came before me were thieves and robbers. He is definitely not meaning here that the law and the prophets, the people who wrote the Old Testament, he's not saying Moses, Abraham, Joshua, all of these guys, the prophets, they're all liars and robbers. That's not what Jesus is saying. We read earlier in the Gospel of John, in John chapter 5, verses 39 to 40, Jesus, again speaking to the Bible experts, says, you search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life. And it is they that bear witness about me, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. So Jesus isn't saying, you guys you're dumb. You're looking at the Bible because you think that's where the truth is, but it's not in there. It's in me. He's not saying that. He says, no, it's in there. It points to me. But you're reading it, and then I'm right here, and you're missing what it's pointing to. So Jesus has a high view of Scripture as God's revealed word, but he sees that it's pointing to him. Reading it does not just instantly save a person. Knowing it off by heart, like the Pharisees, does not necessarily even let you see what it's pointing at. So the thieves, generally, it's anyone who approaches the sheep without official permission. It doesn't have like license to. Anyone who approaches illegitimately or with ill intent, right? You know what thieves are. We still have those now. Someone who's sneaking in who shouldn't be there, and they're there not just to look around, but they're looking around for what they can take. They are there to do damage. They're not allowed to be there. And so they don't enter by the gate in this sheep analogy, but they hop the fence. They do it because they don't have permission. If they had permission, they'd go to the gate. They'd be let in, or they'd have a key, right? But instead, they're breaking and entering. They're sneaking in. And I think then as now, it's fair to say that anyone who offers a way of salvation other than through Jesus is robbing people of the truth. It might sound good. It might look moral. It might gain a wide following. Jesus doesn't say it's close but no cigar. He says those are thieves and robbers that have come to steal and kill and destroy. So the people are the sheep. False teachers are the robbers. Who is Jesus? Why did Jesus come in this? Well, Jesus, one of the first things I want us to see is Jesus is unique. He claims a unique and exclusive role. He says things here that are not politically correct, because they insist that there's one way and the other ways are wrong. He's saying that something that others would see as a matter of opinion, he's saying it's factual, like math, and he knows the answer to it. Jesus claims to be the door for the sheep, the one legitimate way in, like the door to the house. He doesn't say it is impossible to get in except through me. He says, no, you can break in. But the people who own the house, the guests who are invited to the house, I'm the one way in. I am the one way to the salvation that God has promised. Using sheep language, sheep lost, scattered on the hills, open to theft by robbers and predation by predators out there. The safety that they need, the protection of the shepherd who will lead them to good pasture and watch over them. He says there's one way people can get to that, and it's me. Anyone who offers a different way, they're lying. Like, that's very bold. Like, he better be right, or he's really wrong. He claims to be the door of the sheep. I believe that he's telling the truth, but we need to see he's making a very exclusive claim. Then Jesus says, he makes another claim about himself. He doesn't say, I am a good shepherd. One among many shepherds of varying degrees of goodness. Some of them, I'll admit, are kind of shabby. I am a good shepherd. He's not saying that. That would be polite, right? I don't want to throw them under the bus, but their shepherding scores are less than mine. I'm the best shepherd. He's not saying that. He says, I am the good shepherd. I'm not a good shepherd among other lesser shepherds. I am the good shepherd among thieves and robbers. It's like, there's such a stark contrast that it's not like, well, give these guys a chance. They're not even doing the same thing. He says, I'm legitimate. I have the sheep's best interest in heart. I have the rights to do this. The others don't have the right. They don't have the best interest. They are false. They have come to steal and kill and to destroy, whether they realize it or not. He says, I am the good shepherd. This, what theologians or professors of religion will they call this concept the exclusivity of Christ, or the claim to exclusivity of Christ and Christianity. It's the thing that makes us wrong nowadays, right? Because you can't be exclusive. You can have a good way, but if it's the only good way and the other ways are false, well, that's very un-Canadian, right? Everyone's kind of figuring out their own way. There are things that are like that, right? For years, I worked at a factory that was about 35 minutes from my house. And I lived here, the factory was down there, and the roads between it were essentially like a grid. And because I'm one of those guys that's easily distracted and I get bored with repetition, I was working at a factory where my life got broken down into 32-second increments where I did the same thing over and over, feed the parts to the machine. My commute, I would vary. And there was all kinds of different ways you could zigzag up and down. There was a railroad that ran through it. And my commute was generally one way or the other was in the dark. And there were times I see the train coming. It's coming around the bend, right? And I'm like, I can beat it. And I'd plot out so I could get down and get to the crossing before the wigwags came down, right? Yes! I get to work early. Like, what am I doing? Anyway, right? We make our own fun. So if someone is like, you live in Angus and you work in Alliston, yeah, there's one way. There's only one way to get to work. They'd be wrong. I'd be like, well, actually, my friend, there's lots of different ways. Come ride with me. I'll show you. We can beat the train. There are things like that. When it comes to the matters of highest importance, our actual salvation, our relationship with God, being rescued from our doomed situation, it's not like that. It's not like you can hop on that lifeboat or that one. There's some driftwood over there you can swim over and float on. There's a helicopter coming. You pick. It's not like that. There is one option. And this is consistent through the New Testament. Lots of verses I could look at, but the Apostle Paul wrote about this in Galatians. In Galatians 1, verses 8 and 9, he's trying to underline, it's like, how can I express this really powerfully? He says, but even if we ourselves or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one that we preached to you, the one about Jesus, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. Jesus is exclusive. He is the door. He is the good shepherd. So why did he come? We see in verse 10, he contrasts himself, right? The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Jesus came that we may have life and have it abundantly. So, first part we need to see, he said that he came that we would have life, as opposed to, right? He contrasts himself. The thief comes to steal and kill and destroy. I've come that they may have life. So that sounds better. It is better, right? Life versus death. But first, I think we need to look and say that Jesus came that we may have life. He's clarifying he did not come for lesser reasons, right? He did not come that we may have comfort. He didn't come that we may have an easier time in the kind of the false appearance of life that we have. He didn't come that we would have, like, I've come that you may have a map, so that if you're smart enough and good enough, you'll find your way to life. He's like, no, I came to bring it and to deliver it. It strongly implies that we don't have life otherwise. He came that we would have life. Otherwise, we have a facsimile of life. Jesus came, so it's like life versus having death, and the Bible I've talked about, the Bible alludes a lot of the time that it's like we're alive right now. This is the only kind of life we know, but the Bible makes it very, very clear that apart from Christ, we are alive as humans, but we are broken and dead spiritually. The part of us that connects with God, sin has broken it. So we're wandering around going, I'm alive. I have ideas and plans and goals. I love stuff. I have ambitions. I'm a human. I'm alive. It's like, yeah, but not. Like, it's only partly alive in the smaller way, the way that is bound to just decay and not get better. The way that is a slave to our own sin and our selfishness. Jesus came that we would have life. But he came that we would have life more abundantly. So not just life, but abundant life. Every time I say this, you can't see, but there's like a flash that goes off in my head. Because when I was growing up, I went to a church called Abundant Life Assembly. And way back in the day, some dear church lady wrote like a theme song for them. And I learned it as a kid. And so every time I say Abundant Life, the song starts to play, and I can hear like the old church piano. It's very distracting. You guys can't hear that, right? That is good. It's the mic. I was wondering if it was picking it up. What does it mean when he says abundant life, ample, like overflowing, right? Abundant means lots, more than you need, extra. You're not worried, do I have enough? It's like, oh man, there's tons. What does it mean? Well, it means, among other things, it means Jesus came that we would have abundant life versus mere survival, right? You can have life, but you're just hanging on. Well, that's not very abundant. You can have life, but it's like, death is right crouching at the door, and it's a constant fight for survival, and we don't know if we have. That's not the picture here, right? It is more than survival. It's also more than just a mere prolonging of days. There are, I think there's something in us. I think it's part of the image of God in us, where we recognize that our physical life is too short, no matter how long it is. You can live to be 97, 98, 102, and there's still part of you that it's like, there was a lot left to do, right? And so this longing to extend that, we do it, right? Staving off death, delaying death, prolonging our physical life. There's all kinds of legends you can read, right? People looking for the fountain of youth. What is the secret to living, Every once in a while it'll pop up on news feeds, people are, here's the secret to, I think we could just, cryogenics is a big one. Every once in a while someone's like, I think this is how we could freeze people just before they die, so that way in the future we can unfreeze them, and if they've got cancer or something, we can fix it, and you don't even have to die. And a lot of people get really excited about this. Jesus, I think, sees clearly, and maybe some of us have moments where we see clearly and we're like, hold on. Living like this life, the way I am now, in this world, the way it is, just for more and more years, another century, it's like that starts to feel a lot like a sentence, right? It's like, is it that much different than hell, is what I'm saying, right? Jesus is like, I'm not just here to extend what you have, right? I'm not just here to stave off death. I'm here to give abundant life. So abundant life speaks to quantity, certainly, right? Jesus says he gives everlasting life. In John 3:16, God loved the world so much he gave his only son, so whoever would believe in him need not perish but have everlasting or eternal life. So yeah, quantity-wise, it's life that does not run out of time and stop. But it's not just more of the same. It is different in quality. It's a new kind of life. Abundance speaks to the quality of life, right relationship with other people, right relationship with the different parts of our own self, peace inside, peace with other people, the right relationship to our stuff, being able to enjoy good things without making idols out of them, and seeking our worth and our joy and our peace from them, right relationship with God, so that we don't have to run and hide knowing that he sees our sin, or somehow brag and ignore it and be like, no, I'm, in our pride, stand up, even though we know that we have nothing to stand on before a holy God. Jesus comes to give us a new kind of life. And he says, that's the reason I came. I didn't come to make friends, right? It's like, Jesus, why are you doing that? You could have healed the guy quietly, but you made him work so that the Pharisees, did you just do that to pick a fight? He kind of did. And then he went and said that he was sarcastic with them. Did you catch that at the end of 9? They're like, are you saying we're blind too? He is. But he's like, no, I'm not saying that. If you were blind, you'd be innocent because you wouldn't know. But no, you guys, you got 20/20 vision, right? As you claim so, right? He's being sassy with them. Why? Because he didn't come to fit in or be smooth with everything or make it easy. He didn't come to win a popularity contest. He came that the people would have life. And when there's people offering fake substitutes, they're stealing the sheep, he's like, I have to stop that. I'm the good shepherd. He came that we would have life more abundantly. But abundant life has a cost. As I said, left to our own devices, we can't find life. It's like sheep just out in the wilderness are not going to just wander into the sheepfold. They're not going to do that into safety and plenty. We are lost on our own. Furthermore, there are thieves and robbers, right? There are false ways. The thief comes to kill and to destroy, to take the life of the sheep. Jesus says, I'm the good shepherd. I've come that they may have life, but he sees the cost and he's willing to pay it. He says, I am the good shepherd, and his very next sentence is, the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The thief comes to take the life of the sheep. The good shepherd lays his life down to save the sheep. So he does the opposite, not only protecting the sheep from the thief, but buying them life. We're going to take communion. We're going to celebrate the Lord's Supper this morning. And this is what this is about, right? We celebrate the Lord's Supper. When we do that, we are remembering that the Good Shepherd came, and it was not easy. He came to overcome our own sin. He laid down his life for the sheep. We remember with thanksgiving the sacrifice of the Good Shepherd.